But speaking of which, because I do not know, you are going to be revealing. I know one of them because it was a bone of controversy on Twitter. But otherwise, we thought it might be entertaining if we just briefly run through the various honorees and award recipients and see what it is these people are actually thinking. Sort of opposition research, I guess, is what it is.
Well, here it is, the 2022, the 43rd Annual Wrestling Observer Newsletter Readership Awards.
Overture, curtain lights, this is it, the night of nights. No more rehearsing and nursing of parts. We know every part by heart. Da-da-da-da-da. Overture, curtain lights, this is it. We'll hit the heights, and oh, what heights we'll hit. On with the show, this is it.
Please welcome Billy Crystal. No, but here we are with the Observer Awards. These are the Category A awards. They're determined by points on a 5-3-2 basis.
Okay, can't just take fucking votes, right? It's got to be this fucking
Electoral College.
Yeah. Electoral, so Montana doesn't get left out. No wonder he and Tony Khan get along so well. I wonder if Dave has his columns out sideways instead of up and down this time.
This year, the winner of the Luthez Ric Flair Award, in parentheses, Wrestler of the Year, with 498 first place votes and a total of 3,101 votes. Is that the total votes or the total points?
Well, see, there's points and there's votes and there's more points for some votes. So I'm not a goddamn math major here.
Well, the Luthez of the Year, Jon Moxley.
Okay.
He came in first. Let me give you the top 10 and then you can give your thoughts on this, Jim. At 1, Jon Moxley. At 2, Roman Reigns. At 3, Will Ospreay. At 4, Kazuchika Okada. At 5, Suri. At 6.
Wait, who? Where?
I believe she's one of the stars of Stardom.
It's a girl. They let the girls into the Luthez and Ric Flair Award.
At 6, whoever voted for this. At 6, Chris Jericho. At 7, MJF. At 8, CM Punk. Number 9, Julia. And 10.
Julia? And so 2 girls on the Luthez and Ric Flair
No,
list.
she's fine. Leave her alone. And number 10, Bryan Danielson.
Oh, good Lord. Do you think...
And Dave wrote a little write-up here if you want to hear any of it.
Well, hold on. I'm just going to comment on this placement. Again, I have had conversations with both Luthez and Ric Flair. Many more with Flair than with Thez, but with both of them, and neither one of them would want to be compared to Jon fucking Moxley. That's number 1. Number 2, for fuck's sake, not only is Jon Moxley one of a rotating, depending on whether they're injured or suspended, cast of top guys in the company instead of the guy, he's in the sea of things. Roman Reigns is the biggest star in the wrestling business. And so this is somewhat ridiculous on the surface of it. But besides that, if they were really dedicated fans, you want to reward a guy who not only doesn't try to keep the younger wrestlers in AEW away from their worst instincts, he glorifies garbage wrestling and rolling around in barbed wire and knives and blood and blades with fucking bank-addicted drug robbers. And teaches them exactly to do the shit that they shouldn't be fucking doing. He's an embarrassment in every form of professionalism, from his fuck yous on the air to his fingers on the air to his lack of goddamn any respectable professional appearance to his constant fucking self-mutilation, as the kids call it.
I just think his wrestling sucks. I hate his matches.
To his shitty garbage wrestling. And so there. And what is Dave's comment on this turn of events?
As expected, this turned into a 2-person race with Moxley, Jonathan Good, 37, and former Shield partner Reigns. Liati, Joseph Hanoi, also 37. The way I see the argument It comes down to Reigns as the biggest star of the year in pro wrestling, as WWE champion for the entire year, and headliner on the biggest shows during a year that got very strong for the company after April. He had good to great matches on top, which is a big part of the award. But the argument is most valuable. Reigns worked a very limited schedule, and the company did roughly as well with him and not with him. The SmackDown ratings rise was as much tied to Sami Zayn and Jey Uso, who carried it to strong results when Reigns wasn't around, as the weekly angle. Moxley was more valuable because he was twice, after injuries to Punk, called to lead the company. Had he not
wait a minute. Lead the company. We got to put the belt on somebody. So Moxley, come here. You got the reputation. Where was he? General fucking Jon Moxley charging up San Juan Hill, leading these guys into a battle that they ever won?
Had he not been around, the declines would have been greater than they were. Coming off,
how do we quantify that?
It's a assumption that you just have to accept. Coming off rehab at the start of the year, he and Chris Jericho really carried the company during different periods when so many top names were out with injuries, and later after All Out, when Punk, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks were suspended. You take both out of the picture in 2022, and it's AEW that would be hurt far worse. What do you think about that argument that WWE, which, let's face it, as a business is infinitely times bigger right now than AEW in terms of every tangible result you would look at? They're making so much more money. The world champion there doesn't mean as much as the guy on top of the company that can't draw full houses for their TV shows, have to block off half the arena. The ratings have been a mess. And just saying that they hung around after All Out, that should mean something. Not that the work was especially good after All Out, but they were there. What do you think of this?
Well, you got it all wrong. You see, you got it all wrong because that's the deal. You know, Moxley was very important to make sure he was there so that he could do all the things that he's done that have not stood out.
I swear, if Moxley wasn't so buddy-buddy with the Observer side, I think some people over there would be a lot more honest about his work.
Here's the thing. Dave is very correct in what he said, that Sami Zayn and Jey Uso's interaction carried a lot of those ratings. Who were they talking about? What were they talking about? Let me clarify this. If they hadn't established Roman Reigns as the dominant champion, as the undefeated fucking guy, as the big dog, the head of the table, the tribal chief, and established this group around him, then what else would Sami Zayn and Jey Uso have been talking about and interacting with that would have allowed them to draw those ratings?
Catering on the
there
bus.
You go. Another breakdown of the catering fucking issue. No, that's
See, again, it's a voting body voting for it, but Dave justifies that vote there. And to me, if you're an observer of the industry, how do you say Moxley's more valuable than Roman Reigns? Because AEW would go out of business if he wasn't there?
No, we've established that they're going to do the same amount of business that they do with or without anybody except Punk. And they basically had a couple 100,000 people that just said, fuck you. They came with him and they left with him. And otherwise, it's the same fucking thing because it's a goddamn circus sideshow. It's not personality driven at this point because everybody's muddily booked and confusing.
He stayed around and was awful in that MJF feud. They had to kill off Steven Regal 3 times on TV because of Moxley. Wrestler of the Year.
William Regal came back more often than fucking Jason Voorhees out of the lake.